Okay, part two of our audiobook this morning. Let's finish off part two of the Odyssey. Odysseus meets the shades of the dead in the land of the dead. Once we had reached our boat down on the beach, we dragged it out into the gleaming sea, set up the mast, and sailed in our black ship, led on the sheep, and then embarked ourselves, still full of sorrow, shedding many tears. All day long the sails stayed full. We sped on across the sea until the sun went down and all sea routes grew dark. Our ship then reached the banks of the deep stream Oceanus, a region always wrapped up in mist and cloud. We sailed in there, then dragged our ship on shore and walked along the shores of Oceanus until we reached the place Circe described. Perimedes and Eurylochus held the sheep, our sacrificial victims, while I unsheathed the sharp sword on my thigh and dug a hole 2 feet each way. I poured out libations to all the dead, first with milk and honey, second with wine, and a third with water. Around the pit I sprinkled barley meal. Then to the helpless heads of the departed I offered many prayers, with promises I'd sacrifice, once I returned to Ithaca, a barren heifer. With prayers and pledges I called upon the families of the dead. Next I held out the sheep above the hole, slit their throats, and let the dark blood flow. Then out of Erebus came swarming up shades of the dead, brides, young unmarried men, old ones worn out with toil, young tender girls with hearts still new to grief, and many men wounded by bronze spears, who died in battle, still in their blood-stained armor. Crowds of them came thronging in from all sides of the pit, with amazing cries. Pale fear seized my heart. Then I called my comrades, ordering them to flay and burn the sheep still lying there slain by cruel bronze, and pray to the gods, to mighty Hades and Persephone. And then I drew the sharp sword on my thigh and sat there, stopping the powerless heads of all the dead from getting near the blood, until I'd asked Tiresias my questions. The shade of Tiresias from Thebes appeared, holding a gold staff. He knew who I was and started speaking. Laertes' son and Zeus's child, what now, you unlucky man? Why leave the sunlight, come to this joyless place and see the dead? Move from the pit and pull away your sword, so I may drink the blood and speak the truth. When Tiresias said this, I drew back and thrust my studded sword inside its sheath. Once the blameless prophet had drunk dark blood, he said these words: Odysseus, glorious and brave, you ask about your honey-sweet return, but a god will make your journey bitter. As soon as you've escaped the dark blue sea and reached the island of Thrinacia in your sturdy ship, you'll find grazing cattle and rich flocks of Helios, who hears and watches over everything. If you leave them unharmed and keep your mind on your return, you may reach Ithaca, though you'll have trouble. But if you touch them, I foresee destruction for your crew, for you, and for your ship. And even if you yourself escape, you'll get home again late and grieving in someone else's ship after losing all of your companions. There will be trouble at home, insolent men eating up your livelihood and wooing your godlike wife by giving courtship gifts. But when you come, you'll surely take revenge for all their violence. Once you have killed the suitors in your house with your sharp sword, by cunning or in public, then take up a well-made oar and go, until you reach a people who know nothing of the sea, who don't put salt on any food they eat, and have no knowledge of ships painted red or well-made oars that serve those ships as wings. I'll tell you a sure sign you won't forget. When someone else runs into you and says you've got a shovel used for winnowing on your broad shoulders, then fix that fine ore in the ground and offer sacrifice to Lord Poseidon with a ram, a bull, and a boar that breeds with sows. And then leave. Go home. And there make sacred offerings to immortal gods who hold wide heaven, all of them in order. Your death will come out of the sea, such a gentle passing when you are bowed down with ripe old age, and your people prospering around you. In all these things, I'm telling you the truth. I quickly made my way back to the ship and told my crew to get themselves on board and loosen off the cables at the stern. They went aboard at once and took their seats along with each rowing bench. A rising swell carried our ship away down ocean stream. We rowed it first, but then a fair wind blew.